Good morning and welcome to your favorite Friday morning podcast, Conversations with Buddy, brought to you by The Rec, way more than a bowling alley. We give you the ability to connect each week with our guests because we believe people matter, you matter. We are grateful to all the listeners who take the time each week to hear the stories of our guests. Please help us grow the show by taking a moment right now and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and give us a review. Our purpose of this podcast is to impact the world one testimony at a time. My guest this morning is Matthew Hansen. Welcome, Matthew.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being here, man. Hey, so we've known each other, how many years?
At least 7?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Man, I can recall the weekend, so I don't know how far I can go back, but I'm glad you can. So I was thinking, did you go skiing this weekend?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, well, Friday.
Yeah. Ooh, little skip work and go skiing.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have priorities.
Do you normally work 4 days and take Fridays off?
I usually work 4.5 days. So Fridays are half days for me.
Ooh, come on.
Yeah.
I like that. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. It was a beautiful day up there. Oh, my gosh.
Where do you ski mostly?
Mostly meadows, but I had some Timberline tickets.
Okay.
Yeah, Cyber Monday deals. 3 for 1. You got to take advantage. Took my sons. It was fun.
All 3 of them?
No, just 2.
2 of them?
3, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're a snowboarder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, let's dive in real quick. I'm just going to introduce you real quick so people get to know who Matthew is. And then we'll dive into, I got lots of good questions for you. So.
Sounds great.
All right. So here's what you say. I've been an Oregonian all my life. Married to lovely Hannah for 6 years. Awesome. You're the father of 3 young men, ages 19, 21, 22 and a half. Give me their names as well. I guess youngest to oldest, since that's why
Yeah. Youngest is Ollie, and middle is Aiden, and oldest is Rohan.
Dude, those are cool names, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I love kids, and I know they're young men, but it'd be great to meet them someday.
Yeah, they're good guys.
So we'll come back and talk about your boys real quick. How do you hang out with them and stuff? I know you went skiing with them this weekend, but is that something you would normally do? We'll come back to that in a moment.
Sure.
Okay, so you are Cutco Hall of Fame rep. That's pretty cool. 23 years in business. 14 years you've been working with realtors and loan officers.
Yep.
Okay. You've been a Christian, born again since 18 years old. That sound about right?
Yep.
Okay. You enjoy a variety of sports, including snowboarding, surfing, hiking, tennis, pickleball, and mountain biking. It's interesting. Pickleball seems like this fad that's now all of a sudden blown up.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I wouldn't call myself a pickleball player yet, but I dabble with some church friends, and it's really fun. I was skeptical at first, but
yeah. Well, why skeptical?
I played tennis since high school, and you kind of pickleball is this, not a real sport.
So I want to be tennis player.
Yeah, but it absolutely is a real sport. There's guys going pro, and one of my clients, her son is pro over in Central Oregon. So
no kidding.
Yeah. It's just a really fun sport, and anyone can pick it up. So I really
is this person over in Bend or Redmond or?
Yeah, actually down. Bend.
Bend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bend proper. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely an active guy. The last thing you write down is you love travel, including 1 international trip per year. Usually, you got to win that one though, right?
You know what? I do win quite a few of those, but some of the trips are just my wife and I decided to go, and I actually decided to take each of my sons when they graduated high school individually to somewhere international. And that was something I came up with maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And saved for, and there's a fun story around one of those trips too. We could.
Let's start there, man. I love to hear the stories, man. Let's talk about your boys and how you interact with them. And so tell us about the trips when they got out of high school, where you took them.
Yeah. So my oldest Rohan, he and I really wanted to go to Europe. And at that time I was also newly married to Hannah when he was graduating in high school. And so in 2018, I actually won one of Cutco's highest awards, or I think it is their highest reward, a Rolex Submariner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. A very, expensive watch. And I'm not too much of a watch guy. I do wear a watch, but I have my priorities. So after winning that, 3 days later, I sold it, and I took my son and Hannah to Europe, and we went through, four different countries and about 2.5 weeks. And
wow.
It was money well spent. So,
I've heard this too. I'll tell you a quick story here in a moment, but I want after you tell the rest of yours. But it's paying for memories is better than paying for trinkets. Basically,
yep.
In a way, a watch is, they're cool, but it's more of a trinket. It's not a memory. So good call on that.
Oh yeah, those memories are locked in. It's
totally
beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. So 2.5 weeks in Europe. What countries?
Yeah, so we flew into Copenhagen and stayed with friends outside of Copenhagen in like a 200-year-old thatched roof home that they own. This is Jenny and her family over there that we hosted as kids. My parents would host international students, and Jenny was one of those international exchange students. And so we still keep in touch. She and Jeppe, her husband, and two of their kids are going to come visit this summer. But we went and stayed with them outside of Copenhagen. I think it's Faxiladapladen, if I remember correct, the name. And so we had a great time there. Swam the sea with them, traveled around a little bit outside of Copenhagen, and then we went from there. We hopped a plane and flew to Frankfurt, Germany, and I have a friend named Steve, and he married a German named Doris, and they lived for many, many years outside of Frankfurt in a small town. So we went and stayed with them for a few days, and explored some great little German towns. My friend had to work, so he would just drop us off at these random towns.
Dude,
and we would just explore. It was so fun. Yeah.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it was really, really fun.
Okay.
And then from there, we went down to, what was the third country? Sorry, my memory is not perfect because I've had 3 concussions. That's one of them being a traumatic brain injury. So that's a separate issue. But yeah, so the third country, if I recall, famous beer, Belgium, of course.
Okay.
Belgium, chocolate, beer, wonderful. We
chocolate beer, man.
Yeah, we went to a big beer festival. My son was 18, so he could go into, and we're not really drinkers much, but we enjoyed a beverage, and that right in the heart of Belgium was amazing. And then from there we went to Amsterdam, and by train, and my friend Eric, he's always lived there, and he was an exchange student when I was a high school senior. My entire senior year, we had Eric with us, and so he's like, I call him my Dutch brother. So he lives in Amsterdam with his wife and kids, and we spent the last few days there, and it was just absolutely amazing time. Amsterdam is beautiful city, wonderful city. So that just I've always wanted to go to Europe since I was a little kid. My parents,
was that your first time then going?
First time to Europe, yeah. My parents had been to Europe many times, and it just never worked out for me to go. But boy, oh my gosh, I whet my appetite. I'm dying to go back. It's going to be fun. So.
Just real quick, I'll just interject. So when my girls graduated from high school, we would say, hey, you get to go anywhere in the world you want to go.
Yeah.
And so my oldest daughter, Emily, we stayed stateside. We went to New Orleans and New York City and made like 12 to 14 days, something like that.
Fun.
My younger daughter, Molly, said, hey, let's try out Italy. So we flew into actually France. We stayed in Paris for like 4 or 5 nights. And then we went over to Venice for a couple nights. Rode the train down to Florence for 4 or 5 nights. We ended in Rome for 3 nights.
Wow.
And like you, just whet our appetite. Now I've just been dying to go back, but that was the only time we've ever been. So.
Oh yeah, it's everyone should put it on their bucket list.
Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely breathtaking beauty and history and culture.
So tell us about your other boys. Where'd you take them?
Yeah, so Aiden, when he graduated, it was during COVID, so we really couldn't travel internationally. So we went up to Alaska, and Alaska was so fun. So we flew in, of course, to Anchorage, and high school buddy of mine, Scott, loaned us his brand new Toyota Tundra. He was out of town. He's like, just take the keys.
Go.
So we had the keys for 9 days and just drove all around the Kenai Peninsula. And we went, we got to see Denali from a distance, got to paddle around a canoe in Denali.
And it was just you and him at that time.
No. Actually, Hannah went with us, but she wasn't on this particular canoe excursion.
Gotcha.
It was quite cold, socked in. It was August, but Alaska's Alaska.
It's cold.
And this was the first too. I'd never been to Alaska in my life. It was just gorgeous. So paddled around there. We went fishing out of Homer, and that was a 12-hour excursion itself. That was fun. Aiden caught one of 2 salmon that whole day, and then everyone on board limited out with halibut. So that was a highlight for sure. Wow. And just enjoyed the whole Kenai Peninsula. And we actually, one of the fun things, and this was Hannah's idea, we were traveling past near Palmer Glacier, and there was a sign that you could just hire a pilot to take you up in a pontoon boat, I guess, the ones that land on lakes. And so she's like, let's just do it. So we just hired this guy right on site, and he flew us over Palmer Glacier and over these mountains and just like all around. It was just absolutely stunning.
Wow.
And we gave Aiden the front seat, so he's riding with the pilot, and I can still picture his smile on my face. It's
no kidding.
Yeah,
that's a memory. It's locked in.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a trip, man.
Literally.
All right. Then your youngest son.
Yeah, youngest son, Oliver. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ollie.
Yep. Oliver. Yep. We took him to Peru with us. My wife comes from a full missionary family. They grew up in Papua New Guinea and just adventurous folks. So her brother and sister and their families lived down in Peru for 10 years and 7 years respectively. And their time down in Peru was coming to a close, and we knew it. So we flew down, stayed with them, and traveled around Lima. Oliver, he's learning to surf as well. So we went surfing with Dan, her brother, at 3 different locations in Peru. That was outstanding. And then we went up to, of course, Machu Picchu. We had to go there. So that was, it's a journey within a journey just to get up there. It's crazy.
Right.
But Cusco is a beautiful historic city. And just don't eat the rodents.
Okay. What would happen if you ate the rodents?
Oh yeah, I was very sick to my stomach.
Okay.
I ate, I forgot what the rodent was, but it was, don't eat the rodents.
Don't do it.
It's a gourmet, a delicacy up there, but
not for us
so much.
Americans.
No.
Well, it sounds like you guys have done a lot of travel in the last 6 years or so.
We have, every year we've traveled.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we'd love to travel, domestically as well, but it's a priority. We just like to get away. This summer we're going up to BC. My wife's never been to Victoria, British Columbia, so we're just going to travel up there. The boys have never been there, so we're going to...
Away you go, man.
Yeah, I got to get away somewhere.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, take me back a little bit. I want to get to know a little bit more about Matthew. I know Matthew as a Cutco guy. You're a super likable guy. That's why I like doing business with you, which I think is how you win. People just like you, personally.
Oh, thanks. I hope so.
Well, take me back, what was life like growing up? Where'd you grow up at? What high school, grade school, high school did you go to? What was your mom and dad like?
Yeah.
And then how does that help you with who you are today? How did that all happen?
Yeah, so I was born against my will. No, I was born in 1972 in Eugene, Oregon.
Really? Are you a Duck fan?
Yeah. Well, I got to be, right?
You got to be, man.
Yeah. So, the first 2 years of my life, I was in Eugene. My dad graduated law school at UO, and actually, my brother and sister are also alumni of U of O.
No
and
way.
My oldest son is going to U of O. So there's some
definitely
deep,
Duck. Man.
Yeah, definitely some deep history there in Eugene. And so when I was 2, they moved us to McMinnville. And I grew up in the same house, which is kind of rare these days, I think, but the same house from grade school through high school. So I was walking distance to the McMinnville High School, go Grizzlies. And
too cool.
Yeah. And so I had a really great upbringing, like my childhood was just, running amok in the 80s, back in the era when your mom would just be like, hey, when it's dark, come in for dinner,
be home for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so we would just run amok in the neighborhood, and I was in every fad you can think of in the 80s, from, BMX to skateboarding was really influential in my life. And I was just very active as a kid. So I didn't really, get sucked into TV too much. I was like, always wanting to be outside, always wanted to be doing something. So I pretty much signed up for every sport you can imagine, from, all the team sports to I varsityed in diving in high school. So cool. I was on the dive team, and what else was, just a great childhood. I my parents aren't perfect, like all of us. Yeah.
Huh, weird.
But my mother, she's a nurse. She's obviously retired now, but my mom, she cared so much about upbringing, like raising us, that she took like a few years off of nursing just to raise us when we were really young. And then, and she would work mainly part-time, but sometimes full-time. And my dad, being an attorney, he was, full-time. But my dad, he really instilled, and his name is Bernd, so it's a very Norwegian name.
Okay.
I'm a quarter Norwegian, so so my whole right leg is Norwegian.
Oh, dude, I love it.
And so he's my mother's Carol, and she's still alive. My dad passed about 5 years ago.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask that question.
Yeah, that was.
So they were married all the way up until your dad passed?
Yeah. And I've had, even though I had a great childhood, and I'd say my dad really instilled a love for the outdoors and adventure, and he climbed Mount St. Helens before it exploded, and just like he was a real adventurous guy. Not like extreme, but he was always getting into trouble in the outdoors and taught us how to do so as well.
Which is probably why you love the outdoors as well.
Yeah, I think it
because
really
every time
is.
I see you on Facebook, you're up skiing or snowboarding.
Yeah, I love the outdoors. I just,
good for you.
Yeah, it's God's world.
It is beautiful. Totally God's world.
Yeah.
Okay, so diving was your sport in high school. What else did you said you did other sports as well?
Yeah, I was on the tennis team in high school as well, but I did not excel at the team sports. I'm kind of that classic individual, do my own thing kind of guy. But I think the Lord's, tempered that.
Yeah.
But I was like that. I was like that little rebel skater.
Yeah.
But not too ornery. I never got in trouble with the law, so that was good.
Yeah. Did you go to college then, or did you?
Yeah. I went to Mount Hood Community College for a couple of years altogether.
Yeah. What was your hopes and dreams of college? What were you going for?
I didn't really know where I was going. I just went. And my whole family is like, "Hey, you go to college," so just went. And not college, but one instrumental moment in my life, education wise, was stumbling into this Bible school in the early 90s. In 1992, I went to the Great Commission School, and that was a non-accredited live-in discipleship, full Bible immersion school. Wow. 9 months, just intensive, 2 or 3 90-minute classes a day. And you would systematically study the Bible. And that was Steve Gregg's brainchild. He's still a Bible answer man down in Santa Cruz. And you can Google the narrow path Steve Gregg with 3 G's, and you'll find him. He wrote a few books by Nelson Publishers. But anyway, I'm really, really grateful for that formation. It was kind of a greenhouse effect for me in my early formation as a new believer. So,
what who brought you to the Lord, or how did your parents go to church?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I had kind of the yin yang parental. My mom just still Presbyterian. Like, she was pretty much birthed into the Presbyterian church, and she's been a deacon, leader in the Presbyterian church. And I was as a child, we were, I wouldn't even say encouraged. We were brought to church by my mom. So we went to church on occasion. Like, she would pull us into church, I don't know, 6 to 8 times a year. I think that we would darken the doors of the Presbyterian church there in Hickmanville. Yeah. And but I never became a Christian going. I'm sure I heard the message a lot. My mother, she taught me the Lord's Prayer. She taught me Psalm 23 by heart.
Yeah.
So I had like seeds definitely planted by my mother, and my mother's she's the sweetest woman you'll ever meet.
Sowing seeds, man.
Yeah.
Gotta love a mom. Yeah.
And I had a few odd relatives praying, I'm sure, for me, some aunts and stuff. But my mother, Carol, she definitely kind of laid a foundation there that was easy to walk upon, but I didn't really get it until I was 18. But I had what I consider kind of a radical conversion. It was really just an out of the blue supernatural touch from the Holy Spirit. When I was 18, I graduated at 17 years old. But when I was 18, I really dedicated my life to God. But when I was 17, that summer, or maybe right after my 18th birthday sometime, I had an experience where I was laying in bed in my home in McMinnville, and my parents had just treated me to an amazing graduation gift. They sent me off to Mexico for a week on this like high school excursion trip right after graduation, which was super fun. And then I got to go to the first High Cascade snowboard camp up on Mount Hood in 1990. And that was just a blast. So I was like flying high off of this experience and laying in bed and just suddenly just filled with gratitude. And then I started bubbling over with joy, and then it turned into prayer. And then it became so clear that who I was praying to wasn't just, a Santa Claus in the sky, but the name of Jesus really just was driven home. And it became very clear that I was connecting not just with God in general, but with Jesus Christ himself. And so it was almost an out-of-body experience. I felt like I was floating above my bed. I was weeping for joy. It was like, boom. I mean, it was intense. And my prayer was like, hey, Lord, I really don't know you, but I want to. Like, whoever you are, Jesus, I want to get to know you, and that was kind of like my first authentic, really heart-to-heart with God. And then I rode high on that experience for like 2 weeks. And then I went off to college, and I quickly forgot God and just got into the party scene there in Gresham. And just smoking weed and drinking and, and trying to score and all that stuff. But then I met my friend Wade, who I'm going to get to see him in a couple weeks here.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah. So, he was actually a complete stranger. I was up at Timberline again, back where I was this Friday. I was at Timberline Lodge. I had hitchhiked up because my car was broken down, and I was looking for a ride back. And I stumbled into a guy who worked at Hillcrest Ski and Sport in Gresham. That's still a ski shop there, and he told me, "Hey, look for Wade. He'll give you a ride for sure. He's wearing bright red pants and a green jacket." And I was thinking Christmas,
Sweet, yeah.
So I was snowboarding, and I look up and over the lift, sure enough, there's Wade, in the green and red. And I was like, "Hey, Wade." And he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, so-and-so told me to I can get a ride from you." He's like, "Yeah, wait right there. I'll come ride with you." So he was just riding with me, and he was just on fire for the Lord. And
cool,
he was just
That's
like,
so
he's
cool.
like, "You got to know Jesus." And I was like ripe for the picking because of that experience the summer prior.
Yeah.
And so on that lift chair, he's just like, I was just absorbing everything he was saying. And he invited me to go actually crash at his place with his friend Clint. Clint Beetleman was one of the two guys who founded Skate Church in Portland. And with Paul Anderson was the other guy.
Yeah.
And so there's a ministry to this day called Skate Church in Portland. And Clint was one of the two founders. He passed away in the 90s.
Yeah.
But he knew he was going to pass because he actually had a bad blood transfusion from getting AIDS blood transfused into his body from a motorcycle wreck. And this was in the 80s before the blood testing machine. So
Totally, yeah.
Anyway, so he was like, he and Wade just tag teamed and really led me to the Lord. So
That's so cool. And you were 18, 19 here?
Yeah, I was 18.
18.
18.
Okay.
It was that was it was
Gotta
early 1991.
Yeah.
And then in 92 I went to Great Commission School, and but part of my story is pretty interesting. It's a little bit wild. So
Fire away, man. We got time.
Okay, good. So when I was 15, I had a psychotic break, like big psychotic break. So I still to this day don't know exactly all like the recipe that caused that initial mental breakdown. But I had gone down to down to California with my parents on spring break when I was 15. They took me to Del Mar Skate Ranch, which is like in my mind just super built up. That was where Tony Hawk cut his teeth and all these guys back in the day from California. They're like Del Mar was their stomping grounds, and so I wanted to go there and skate. And I skated there, had a blast, came back. But the second I got back home, I just collapsed and was just inconsolably crying, not making sense to my parents at all. And they could not console me. And so they took me to the hospital there in McMinnville, and that experience was frightening, to put it in the least, because I was out of my mind. I was delusional. I thought that the nurses and doctors were trying to kill me. At one point, I became, I guess, violent. I was told later I was throwing nurses across the room at like 15 years old. I wasn't like a bodybuilder or anything. Yeah. So I had all this like, I had this dark experience, and I was tranquilized. I still remember this day that the dream that I had when I was tranquilized. I was basically trapped in a really, really old kind of, picture like Nightmare on Elm Street kind of like house. I was trapped inside this old house with these bars on the windows. I was looking out and I could just see epochs of time passing before me. So like whole generations of time, like hundreds and thousands of years. And I was just trapped inside this thing. And in retrospect, it was definitely demonic. I was going to say, this sounds experience.
Very demonic.
It was, for lack of better words.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm one of the maybe the only guy you're going to interview on a podcast that will say, "Hey, I've been in a straitjacket against my will." Okay. So I was escorted.
You're the first one, man.
I was put in a straitjacket, driven up to Portland to a clinic, put in a padded cell, the whole 9 yards, right? Pumped full of psych meds, and quote unquote stabilized from that from a medical standpoint. So that was like extremely frightening at 15 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And it took me out like for a full year of the rest of that high school year was gone. Like I don't even know if I was able to reassimilate till the next year. In my junior year,
because that was your sophomore year.
Yeah, my junior year, I did stabilize enough, but I still remember like weeping in the hallways. Like I was like, they were like, man, Matt is different. Like leave him alone, right? Yeah. So by my senior year, I was back at it. I was just a normal kid at that point. Yeah. So, and I'm sure I was off psych meds by that time. Mm-hmm. So that was one of my two psychotic breaks I've had. And the second one was after, I was, saved, or, actually I consider myself saved back at Calvary. So totally. Yeah. Amen. Yeah. But as far as my conversion goes, like after I was converted, I also had, in 1991, I had another psychotic break, and, it was, I ended up back in the hospital. I was definitely out of my mind, for a short amount of time. I mean, I thought I was supposed to save Bob Marley. This is a funny little side note. So I filled a bathtub full of scalding hot water and immersed myself so I could replicate hell and go after Bob Marley and somehow save him. So I was just, and I thought, food would give me power. I thought the TV was talking to me. I was really gone.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up again, back in a clinic for at least 2 weeks. And back on psych meds. And
so how many years was that after your first one?
So yeah, that was, so my first one I was 15. Second one I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
So about a year into your conversion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. But there was a lot more of a hyper spiritualized kind of
Satan
focus.
Fighting for your soul. I mean, can you look back and go, that was a satanic, demonic,
absolutely,
Satan fighting for your soul in a way.
Yeah. The thing is, and this is, I'm just full transparency because I don't like to hide anything at all. So at 15, I believe I was demon possessed. Yeah. I remember when they're trying to like hold me down and tranquilize me. I remember saying in a voice that wasn't my own, "I'm invincible. You cannot defeat me," out loud to these, orderlies. And so, feeling that out of control of yourself and I have what I refer to as some help from below. So, so that was that experience. I think, some of the portals that I think opened up that demonic pathway when I was 15 or maybe before was that I was introduced to marijuana at like 12 years old. Yeah. So I was smoking weed, not all the time, but when you smoke weed at a young age, it's very detrimental to your brain, and I'd say to your spirit too. And then I also dabbled in a Ouija board when I was a kid, so I think that was definitely
that's interesting,
an occultic thing. So I think that has something to do with it, and I don't know the rest, but I don't need to know. I trust the Lord. So the
Lord saved you from that. That's so amazing.
But the second experience was demonic oppression more than it wasn't possession. I don't believe a believer can be possessed.
That's right.
They can only be oppressed.
Yeah.
So
good word.
Yeah, there's a distinction, and I know that firsthand. And then also I'd say, just to be respectful of everyone out there listening, that everyone's story is different. Yeah. I'm not saying that all mental illness is demonic, and there's a place and time for medication. There's a place and time for like for sure treatment. I'm a big fan of counseling and but I'm also a huge fan now of being practicing things in your life that will bring you wellness, whether spiritually, physically, emotionally, any area of your life. If you're practicing daily, I call them disciplines for lack of better words, whether what you're eating or what you're taking in your mind, your heart, your eyes, your spirit, it all affects us. We're holistic beings. So, but anyway, in respect to everyone out there, I've been completely what I call drug-free, off psych meds for forever. I mean, more than half my life.
Yeah. How old are you right now, Matthew?
I'm 51.
51. Mm-hmm. So roughly 30 plus years.
Yeah. But that journey, that second time around, that struggle with mental unwellness, it was not an easy, quick, path to recovery. It took me a few years. Yeah. And part of that, I was on meds. Part of that, I was in what's called the program. That second time around really took me out of society for a few years.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like in the mental system, so to speak. I wasn't even able to hold a job. I had to be through, the mental health system in McMinnville. They would place me with short-time jobs. I was on SSI. I was really down and out.
It's amazing where you're at today, because now you snow ski, you're married, take your kids on great vacations. You have an amazing job.
Oh, I'm grateful for everything too. If you want to, I'm also grateful for the hardest times of my life. I feel like the Lord really takes, the hardest things in our life and just transforms them into beauty if we let him, if we learn through these things and if we grow. I mean, I've been, I mentioned I've been married to Hannah for 6 years but the mother of my kids, she left me, 7 years into our marriage. So, that's another part of my story. I've got these, these moments in my life that are really pivotal.
Yeah. So after this period of time from 19 to 23-ish maybe, when did you get married the first time?
Yeah, so the first time, actually there's one quick little, it was only 6 months, an event in my life that really also really helped me, and that was YWAM. So in 1998, I went to Youth with a Mission, and feel a little embarrassed, saying I was really serving the Lord, because at that point it was more about the adventure.
Sure. That's okay though.
It was.
God uses all of us.
He does. So I was like, so Steve Gregg was also a visiting teacher to Youth with a Mission in Hawaii. So in Honolulu in particular, with Danny Lehman, who ran, maybe still does run the Honolulu base of Youth with a Mission, which is I think it's the second largest missionary organization in the world.
Yeah.
It's big.
My daughter went on one too.
Oh, good. Okay, perfect. So you know about
She went to Australia and
So I went to a DTS, which is a discipleship training school in Hawaii. So I was there for 3.5 months in Honolulu in the training segment, and then went to Fiji for 2.5 months.
That was your outreach.
Really suffering for the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an absolute wonderful time, and it really opened my eyes to other cultures and the adventure that can be, walking with the Lord can be quite the adventure.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah. So so I came back from that in early 1999, and then I met the mother of my kids in 1999 in May, married her in December of the same year.
Okay.
So that was, what it was.
Yeah.
We started having kids right away. And I think she was so young, she was 19 when we met, 20 when we married, and really didn't.
You would have been
know herself.
Mid to late 20s at that time?
Yeah, I was like 27.
Okay.
Yeah. 28 right there.
Okay.
And and so we have 3 beautiful sons.
Yeah.
And, she's remarried and lives in Central Oregon and has a good life and married a believer, which I'm really thankful for.
Yeah.
And but that the part of that that's interesting, I think, is that when she left, I really felt like God was saying, wait and pray for her, and wait and pray. Yeah. And I was really, I had a one thing. I was like, I am praying for restoration, praying for, reconciliation with my wife, and for it to just work. And to have that intact family was so high in my heart and mind. And I believe I was doing the right thing, but I stayed that course for 6 years. I was single, celibate, like focused for 6 years. Yeah. And I would have kept going, I think, but the Lord's like, hey, enough. She's not going to come back. And so at that point, I began to move on and into relationships.
It's pretty cool that you remained faithful, though, in a really difficult time. And God was with you during that time, too, as you remained faithful.
It was a crucible for me. It really, he taught me some things he couldn't otherwise have done. So even those hardest times in our lives, I think he's especially close if we let him.
It's like the Psalm 23. You said it too, is, yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. It is a shadow. It's not the real death.
Yeah.
And God's with us the whole way through.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you could appreciate where you're at now if you hadn't gone through that. It wouldn't mean anything.
Nope. Absolutely. I mean, I'm grateful every single day.
Well, and back to some of those episodes you had, being in darkness, God transfers us from darkness into light. And this is a story. This is what he did for you. It's what he did for me.
Absolutely.
I was doing the same stuff. I didn't do a Ouija board, but I was certainly smoking weed at 12.
Yeah.
I was introduced early on, so I can identify.
For sure. Yeah. It's, I'm really grateful. I know, I've got the most lovely wife.
I think gratitude, though, is great medication.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just, wherever God's taken you, you're not angry. You're grateful. Because you can choose to be angry. Why'd this happen to me? You can blame the Lord. You can blame your ex-wife. You can blame whatever, but you don't.
No. Blame doesn't do anyone any good, and neither.
Well, it just means you're a victim, really.
Yeah,
and you're not a victim.
No, I've never struggled with bitterness or resentment in my entire life. Like, I've had little moments where I've definitely been wronged by others, and it hurts, but I don't hold on to any of that. I never have. I just can't. It just it steals all my peace and joy, and forgiveness is the most beautiful thing. It's not, you're not saying what another person did to you is okay. You're just saying, I choose to release you from anything that you may owe me at all. And it's incredible. But gratitude, one of my favorite verses is, we will enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And that's been a pathway into the presence of God forever for me. It's like, you want to feel peace, just take that path and you'll be in the presence of the King in a very short amount of time. So
it's cool. Mm-hmm. So you go through this period of time where you're, waiting, and God says, time to move on. How soon until you get married to Hannah? Yeah,
so that was a rocky road. So I actually went from hearing the Lord say, "Hey, she's never going to come back. You can move forward," to like, I went straight to online dating, met a gal, went through the same, like, met her. This was wild. So I met her, we married, and she left all within 6 months. So I had like a marriage that was annulled. And that was crazy. And from that, I tried to find love back in Eugene. I moved down to Eugene, and I dated a doctor for a couple of years, and we got engaged, and then it just unraveled really fast. Her dad passed, and just between that and some other circumstances, it was just like, it just completely collapsed. Yeah. So that was tough. I thought that I would never love someone more than that. And then, I decided to just really take a step back after that, and give myself some time to heal. And before I started dating again, and then, I dated a little bit off and on for probably a year. I just was going on dates trying to find Hannah. Yeah. and through eHarmony, Hannah and I met, and our first date was, I think, November 17th, 2017.
Okay.
And and just, it really quickly became clear to me, like, she is the one, and you're lucky to have her.
How did you know she's the one? Because that's always the question,
Yeah.
How do you know? I've got 2 daughters, and one's married, one's looking.
Sure.
But how do you know she's the one or he's the one? How would Hannah know you're the one?
I'd say that's a loaded question, buddy.
That's the other episode. But
right.
Well, give us your best answer.
Yeah, we go 7 hours on love alone.
I know, right?
However, I think one of the indicators is when you are in alignment, when you're both 2 whole, healthy individuals, and you're content within your own self.
Yeah.
Then that's the recipe for healthy relationships in general. And then when you are both heading in the same direction, you're both heading towards the Lord and what He has for you, then you're walking side by side with someone versus like looking for someone else to complete you. So neither of us were looking for the other to complete us.
Yeah.
We were like, hey, we're heading we're on the same path here. And then I would add the fact that it became clear that we were becoming best friends. And if you can have that element of just deep friendship, I had to ask myself, like, who could I, wake up next to every day and love seeing her face, and B, like, I never knew that it was possible to have your very best friend be your partner. And so that combination, just, it's wonderful. We just have such a rich relationship. And I think both of us coming from broken past relationships really have helped us to appreciate each other. Yeah. And so our house is just full of gratitude for each other and appreciation and love, right? Just read 1 Corinthians 13 and that's, if you can intentionally love another and they're loving you, it's been fantastic. You would think that we're over that honeymoon stage 6 years in, and we're not. We're just like, we're more in love with each other than we've ever been. So
it's funny. My wife she listens, and we listen to marriage podcasts or whatever, but she was listening to some podcast. But basically, husband and wife, should be dating and flirting throughout their marriage at 90 to 95% of the time. I'm like, that sounds like us, because it's fun.
Yeah.
We're 32 years into marriage, and, awesome. I'm sure there's times where, life got in the way, but we're empty nesters and kids moved out. And so the good news is we still have fun and we flirt and really have fun.
Yeah.
She's my best friend. So.
Good. That's wonderful. That's what it's all about.
Well, what God has done in your life is nothing short of miraculous, really. Mm-hmm. And for you to unpack that and be really transparent, it's really cool. What's, you and Hannah are empty nesters, really, because your boys live on their own, or
Yeah, we're almost there. My oldest moved back for a little bit. He's taking a little break from college. He's only 2 terms away from a language degree at U of O. So he's close, but he's with us. And he's, he's easygoing. But
Totally.
yeah.
Okay. Well, let's dive in a little bit into Cutco. I want to hear a little bit more about Cutco. What caused you to make Cutco the place you've been for the last 24 years?
Yeah, not straight. I mean, my history with Cutco, I started selling Cutco in 1993.
Okay.
In the Tigard, Oregon branch office.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve Miller, if you're out there. So I was there, it didn't take a lot to be their top rep back then. So I think I sold like 10,000 or something for a summer, my first summer. And I was like, woohoo, I won some stuff. And, anyhow, so that's how I got my start with Cutco. But I left Cutco after that, pretty much until 2000. I came back in 2000. Okay. I was at 23,000 in sales in 2000. So, and that's when I met my manager, Isaac Tolpin at the time. I met Tony Carlston, who now runs the branding tools, which engraves 90% of the Cutco nationwide. Yeah. And so, so I started selling Cutco residentially, initially. So in 2000, until the inception of the gifting program in 2006, I simply sold in homes. And then Tony said, "Hey, I'm working with realtors here, and they're buying gifts for me." So I started dabbling in that, and I dabbled in that for years. So I kind of dipped my toes in the residential. I was considered a top rep, but I wasn't phenomenal by any modern standards whatsoever. But I kept at it. I was like, the Energizer Bunny, just kept going. Keep going. Kept, accruing sales, and had a few awards along the way and stuff, which I consider minor, but they're anyway. So I kept doing that, and then I kind of reached a plateau, and I just burned out in around 2015? Yeah. So 2014, I stopped, at the end of 2014, I stopped selling Cutco entirely. 2015, I went into the solar industry. And 2015-16, I worked for Elon Musk's solar company, Solar City, for 2 years. Wow. And I let Tony and his team follow up with my clients for those 2 years. And I just focused on solar, and I helped about 100 homeowners go solar. In that time, that was my dip into corporate America, into sell quota or get fired. Okay. It was definitely a fire. Okay, a crucible. It was good. It was a great time. I had a company car. I was successful, but I watched about half the sales force get fired for not hitting quota, and I was like, wow, I want to take a vacation. I'm going to dip here, and they're like, yeah, you gotta stay and hit your quota. And so after 2 years, I was like, nope, this is not for me. I loved working in the industry. I really appreciate the solar industry, but someone telling me to, hit a number or you're fired just wasn't aligning with who I am. It's not motivating, is it? No. So I was like, adios. So I went back to Cutco, and I, instead of starting my own team so the Cutco Closing Gifts had really developed at that point into a full-blown national program. And so I decided, I could build my own team here, but instead I decided to join the top team, Sharp Retention, and I was already paying Adam Sobieski to coach me. And so I decided to join their team, and that was a really good move. I started growing at 20% compounding, and I did that for 5 years straight. So it was like this mediocre rise to becoming a top performer. Yeah. And it's been great. So that's the nutshell version. Now I'm doing both business gifts and Cutco Closing Gifts. So I'm working. I've served about 1,000 realtors and loan officers over the years, and I've started adding builders. I joined the Builders Association here in Oregon, so I'm really making inroads with that community, and it's exciting. But one thing I'm waiting for you to ask about is like the whole morning routine thing, because I'm getting there. Because, okay. So no, I'm just geeking out on the whole morning routine and how let's talk about that. Yeah. Well, I'll end on. I mean, Cutco is amazing. Oh, and I love Cutco, by the way. I'm the biggest believer. I've sold $3.6 million worth of this stuff. I love Cutco. And really, you started in 1993. You've been doing it more than 30 years. Maybe quit here, quit there, but you've been at it for a very long time. Long time, yeah. But one of the very first books I ever read on the morning routine was
Hal Elrod, Miracle Morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I really got involved in, hey, this morning routine is important. So walk us through kind of what you're talking about. What's your morning routine look like? Mm-hmm. Does it have anything to do with Hal Elrod being at Cutco, or is this something all on your own?
So I met Hal when he was with Cutco and watched him as a top performer, winning awards, and I'd fly down to California and compete, and he was just always this top performer, and I always respected him, and his story is fantastic. If you haven't read Miracle Morning, just do. It's a bestseller for a reason. It's
a must-read book.
It is. It's one of those game changers, and if you don't have a morning routine, this will help you focus in on that for sure. And yeah, so my pathway to a morning routine really started with the Miracle Morning as well. But it's evolved, I'd say, from to this day. And so, my morning routine, like, it's always being refined. I'm always looking to tweak it because, I call it the set of the sail. How you start your day is kind of how the trajectory of your day is going to go. And, for me, I wake up around 6, and I've been really geeking out lately, in the last year, I'd say, on spiritual disciplines more. So spending time in solitude, spending time with God in the quiet is really a part of my morning routine. I have changed things up. And so instead of waking up and going right into solitude and right into prayer, I decided that my body needs to be really alert and my mind sharp. And so I have an elliptical in my garage, and I have a infrared sauna in my garage. So a typical day will be getting either on the elliptical or doing, yoga, stretching, as well as some strength training. I kind of alternate what I'm doing physically, but then 3 days a week I'm going into that sauna, and it's just I don't bring my phone in there or anything. It's just pure quiet, pure solitude. It's a very quiet environment by nature, being inside of a sauna. So I even dim the lights outside, and it's just an awesome time. I highly recommend getting infrared sauna. So you're doing heat therapy, and then I finish my showers on cold.
Okay.
And I'm around 2 minutes cold shower finish per day. So I do 11 minutes per week at least in cold, and then three 30-minute sessions in the sauna. But this morning I did the sauna and the cold finish. I feel like $1 million.
I'll bet you do.
It's awesome.
Is there a certain temperature of the hot that you like?
Well, my sauna I got for cheap on Craigslist, like $400 used sauna. So it doesn't crank up as hot as I'd like it. I get it to about 120, and it won't really go above that. But yeah, when I get another sauna someday, I'll probably crank it up to 130.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, I'd say reading is a part of my morning routine. This year, I haven't read through the Bible, to my shame, since Great Commission School in 1992, like the whole thing in a year, and that was kind of spoon fed me. So this year, my wife and I have decided to read through the scriptures in their entirety, and it's been interesting. I just gotta say,
how so?
It's just the Old Testament is so foreign to me. Compared to the new.
Yeah.
And so I'm grappling with questions that I haven't really delved into fully, who is this God of Moses?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just wrestling with questions, I think is a great thing to do.
It's totally great, yeah.
Journaling should be part of a routine as well. I have a journal app that I'm developed, I haven't developed it, but I'm learning to use it. It's called One Day, and it's a good one. But
interesting.
Yeah, so I'd say just piecing together what's important to you from solitude, prayer and meditation, physical exercise. I'd say water should be a part of that. Just like Hal was saying, just drink water first thing. So I drink a ton of water in the morning.
Sweet.
And my mind and spirit needs all the help they can get, and my body. So
Amen.
I try to just I'm not a poster child, but I try to continually to improve in those areas, because everything wants to pull you away from anything that's going to do you good.
Yeah. If you miss a morning and not do your routine, how does it make you feel?
Let's not go there.
Don't go there. Okay. No. It's that bad.
Yeah. But I'd say that no amount of coffee can possibly wake you up as much as the heat and cold therapy. Like, people are trying to caffeinate themselves all the time.
Yeah.
just forget about that. Like I'm thinking just going decaf because coffee does like nothing compared to what this routine does, like at all. But I'd say if I miss it, I definitely feel it and in a negative way.
Yeah. Does your body ache? I mean, as you get older, do you feel like your lower back or your joints hurt? I know sugar plays a big part in how you feel. Mm-hmm. How are you doing with like your diet and stuff as well?
Well, I have to thank Hannah and the Lord for the diet factor. She's a fantastic cook, and she's really, that's one of the things that really drew us together. Not just her cooking, but the fact that we're both really serious about what we take in. So we buy all organic. We cook at home almost not exclusively. We love to go out to eat too, but we're careful with what we eat in general. Yeah. Sometimes we cheat, but we do that with we know what we're doing. We're gonna eat that cookie and enjoy it So I'm not terribly strict, but
I get it.
But yeah, this for Lent, I've never really given up anything for Lent, and so this year I'm giving up cheese or actually all dairy for 40 days. But it's kind of there's a dietary reason for it too. I'm like my indigestion, like my gut health needs some work. So
it's a 2-for-1.
It is a 2-for-1.
Serve the Lord in. Get some gut health.
Yeah, but I think diet is extremely important. I once read I'm trying to remember the book. It's not Compound Effect, but the other one, The Slight Edge. Have you ever read that book?
I have, actually. It's been a long time ago.
So in the preface to The Slight Edge, he says, we dig our graves with our teeth. And I thought, oh my word, that is going to stick with me for the rest of my life. So, I've got every reason in the world to be healthy. I want to live I don't want to live just a long life. I want a long, healthy life to be there for my grandsons or granddaughters. And not that I have any yet, but I want to be there for them. Yeah. And then, I think it's good to take care of ourselves. And I also love to enjoy, all the sports, and I want to do that in my old age. So it's not going to come without intentionality. But to answer your joint question, I don't have a ton of joint pain. I do have a little bit of aches and pains. I'm carrying a little extra weight, so I need my low back is affected because of that.
Okay, I was wondering. I mean, you look like you're in great shape, but I've got a few pounds I need to shed, and my lower back often hurts. Oh
yeah, I'd say core strength is what I need to work on for low back. But I also hurdle myself off of jumps still snowboarding. So some of my soreness.
You're still 20, and your brain says you're still 20. Your body says no, you're 51.
Oh yeah, I was in the park at Timberline jumping off those kickers with my son.
Oh yeah, man.
But yeah, it's consequences are high in your 50s.
Totally.
Anyhow,
well, dude, this has been a lot of fun, Matthew. I really appreciate you coming down, being on the podcast, and really being transparent. I never know where conversations will go, and let the Lord lead, and really pray for transparency for me and for you. Nobody's perfect, and we all have stuff, and so I really appreciate that. Well, hey, it's President's Day, so are you going to work the rest of the day, or are you going to take the rest of the day off?
I am going to work the rest of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Not for the sake of any president, but just got to get my touches in.
Got to do it, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you all for listening to this podcast with Matthew. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You learned something. If you ever want to reach out to Matthew, what's the best way for somebody to find you?
I think go to my website, everlastingknives.com.
Yeah.
That has my phone number right on it. And anyone's welcome to call or text me that hears this. And they could email me at Matthew with 2 T's at sharpretention.com.
Yeah.
But my phone number is 503-740-3958. So
I got to say, the whole Cutco experience has been awesome. Our clients love the knives and all the different pizza cutters or whatever we have. So, and like my wife and I, we've had our Cutco set for 25 years maybe. I couldn't even tell you. In fact, I think you sharpened them recently.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, again, thank you for listening this week, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you all for taking the time each week to be encouraged, challenged, and loved. Remember what Jesus said? I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. My hope and prayer is that you believe the words of Jesus. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much.